right, gang. Let's do this one last time. Welcome to Heroes and Hooligans. It is a Thursday night. We are here with our talkback episode for Gilded Destinies Season 1, Episode 40, the journey so far. With me tonight, as always, I have Hooli, the player of Coca-Cola, though not playing her tonight. Shen as Jillian, Dawn as Zenlin, and not Duke as Reznor. God, what a wild ride it's been. From a simple morning on the waterside docks of Sharn to leading a band of revolutionaries in removing the Undercity to the depths of hell itself, deciding that a destiny forged by one's own hands in the bowels of the planet is a better chance than trying to eke one out under the great houses. Our players started as many of them started thinking they were simply going into business together, with Cola as the spy for the great houses infiltrating this new shipping agency, Jillian following her best friend along her trail wherever it may lead, searching for purpose as hers was stripped away, Zenlin seeking his cure and now coming to find that perhaps he does not need one, and Reznor really out in the world seeking an old friend and seeking a little bit of himself. How are my players feeling tonight?
Good. Feeling good.
Feeling sad.
Hey, you know what, Hooli? I'm going to keep making you feel like that every other Friday.
You asked, I answered. Very simply. That's how I feel.
I don't have to be the bad guy here. But, that doesn't mean I don't enjoy it.
I was just going to say, just because you don't have to be doesn't mean you don't enjoy being.
Look, you put me in a box, I'm going to fill that box.
To be fair, if you don't play the bad guy, there's not really a bad guy for the story.
Hey, I'm all the bad guys, and I'm all your favorite NPCs. And
AKA Beep.
You are Beep.
Do-do-do.
Y'all always hating on me. Without me, there is no Beep.
This is true. Must keep Chip around forever.
Oh God, no, not forever. There's a reason. I need my season break. I need it.
Get back to
Let's
the
get things started. Let's get things started. Let's open up the floor here. Does anyone have any questions about the campaign so far for me before I start questioning you?
Yes. Why? Why have you done this?
Because I mentioned that I loved the world of Eberron, and you said that you were dying to play an Eberron campaign, and I am constantly dying for attention, so I ran the show.
Yep. That checks out. Well, that's a good answer. That's the only one I had. Good night.
That's our show, gang. Thanks for stopping in. No, I mean, if that's the only question we have, that means I get to start to interrogate you.
Did you have an idea the trajectory the campaign would take?
So I had fun thing about Eberron, for me at least, is that I've played with so many different groups of people in this world and in this setting that I had some guesses as to the direction things would go, and I set up some hooks. 100% true. I set up some hooks for paths that I've seen people follow before in this game. And y'all didn't grab onto a single goddamn one that I set up in the first 6 episodes.
That's not true. We laid rail.
And I'm not going to lie to you. There were times where I was like, it would be nice. It would be nice to have a plan going into an episode for once. But I really think that your sporadic choice making as a group, we'll say, has driven me to be a better GM and player. I can go back and watch the difference in my improvisation in reaction to your crazy decisions from the beginning of this season to the end. So I want to thank you all for pushing me to do better. You did end up grabbing onto some of the hooks that I'd set, just much further down the line than I thought you would. Like when Reznor decided to go up and check out that little fort to the north, and grabbed onto the hook of the Droamite gang that had spread across the country.
That, attacked us back in episode
2. Yeah.
Yeah, we fought them on a bridge.
Yeah. We committed murder on a bridge if you ask the people of Sharn.
Hey, no, if you ask the people of Sharn, Jolly committed murder on a bridge.
Oh,
but
that's
it's okay
fair.
because he
If you
didn't
ask the nobles of Sharn, the people supported him.
Hey, no,
Fair.
the people didn't say he didn't commit murder. The people just said he should go free.
That's fair.
That's fair.
There's a question that I think has come up in our back chat a couple of times, or at least a topic that I'd love to explain a little more. Jolly was already found guilty in a tribunal, so to speak. This Jolly at the festival was a sentencing trial.
Right. Yeah, because the houses wanted blood, and then he was able to rally the people, and
They wanted blood and spectacle. They wanted their blood and circus.
Yeah. Jill, you had a question you were going to ask, but I don't know what it was.
Yeah, please shoot.
You have to unmute, though.
Yeah. Jill's question is about the under the tower. There was a lot going on there, and my notes are spotty because a lot of times I stop writing once combat happens, and then I forget to pick up after.
Absolutely understandable.
So yeah, I just needed more clarification on what was going on under the tower. There was different magic. There were different people. There was undead. There, dwarven culture, gnomish culture. Just kind of wanted to untangle that. If possible.
Under the tower, I'll give you some of the information. Again, there is so much to explore under your tower. There is a whole second undercity that you don't know where it is. But from what you have discovered, you'd all be able to put together that the tower itself is of gnomish build, as was the original city of Revan. You know that below that, there was a network of caverns and tunnels and an underground city forged by dwarves of yore about 1,000 years ago plus, that fell about 1,000 years ago. And that the tower was sort of the entry point between the above and below worlds. These dwarves dug deep into the earth and maybe dug and tapped into something they shouldn't have. As Cola knows from the journal, some form of eldritch power that coursed through the waters below. And as you found out during your Wardstone adventure, that power is now flowing against the stream into your tower. And that's where you saw. That's where you saw those fun little demon those little demon dogs.
To be fair, the water gave me super spells.
The water hurt.
It also tried to kill you.
Lots of things try to kill me.
You tried to kill you. I'll say you'd be able to put it together that the weird demon energy, weird demon magic that they tapped into, as you would know it right now, probably messed with some of the stasis spells that were on the tower itself and blended with the warding in a way it was not meant to.
That got fixed though, right? When they fixed the tower?
It looks like the stasis spell is now always on since they fixed the tower.
Yeah. So they were just like, yeah, it's easier just to leave this on permanently rather than not.
You did get some information from them that they were not able to go like down to the ward stone and repair things there.
Yeah,
so
it's just the tower.
It's still broken. It is just broken. Instead of flipping back and forth between two different states of broken, they managed by fixing the tower above to slam it into broken but always on, rather than broken but sometimes off. So we might have to pop back in at some point for a little Gilded Destinies one-shot where you finally explore the rest of your tower.
That would be great because there's a lot of information there that we still haven't gotten.
Yeah,
and,
there's a lot of maps I made that you still haven't seen too.
Yeah, because Coca-Cola was able to get over to see a portion of one of the other maps, but we weren't able to go in and explore that section because she came back after going to look.
Yeah. I'll say this is one that, going back to Don's earlier question about like, what did I have any idea of the direction you guys would go? There were about 4 to 5 times where I'd be like, okay, you guys are all back together as a group and you have like 2 days of free time. What do you guys plan to do? Where I expected you to say, we're going to check out this cavern system below our base of operations where demons run around. That surprised me.
I mean, I can give you Zenlin's thinking.
I mean, I'd love to hear it.
So the demon dog things had referred to whatever was down there as an elder evil. Zedlin has not completed his training, so even if we go down there and deal with it, he can't do what he needs to do with an elder evil yet. So there's no point to going down there at this time.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
I think Coca-Cola's line of reasoning for putting it on the background, like on the back burner, is it's been here for this long. It's not going to disappear overnight. We have more pressing in our face matters to deal with, what felt like to her anyways. So she's like, yeah, we'll get to that eventually.
Is it disappearing Coca-Cola's concern? Because I feel like my concern is it coming up to our tower and destroying Revan or something, not it disappearing.
No,
it sounds to me like Cola's like attitude is more along the lines of it's been fine this long. It'll keep. Is that correct?
Yeah, her thought is like, it's been the way that it is for however long. The city fell 1,000 years ago. Obviously, there's a lot of history there. She found the journal, so she knows a little bit of things. She's like, there are more things right now in the active living world that we need to deal with. That's going to live a couple more days. Like those stones aren't going to just crumble immediately and we're not going to be able to get there. That's more her thought process is like, it's been there. It's not going anywhere. It's dwarven. We'll get there eventually. Like,
well, now that it's no longer a concern since you had the tower itself repaired, I will reveal to you that you were 2 locks and unlocks of the door away from breaking the warding system entirely.
Well, at least we got it repaired then. Thank you, Rock Burrows.
Yes, that was a great subtle call for you all.
I mean, because when we were trying to get the tower fixed, we were still like in business mind, like, hey, we need this up and running so we can establish a base of operation.
What good is fixing the tower when like we don't have anything to do with it or anything? Like we should figure that out and get that stuff running first.
And speaking of having been in business mind, where do you think each of your characters shift from what will be best for the business to what will be best for people occurred? Was there a moment for any of you? Was it the same moment for some of you?
I think there were two things that happened where it kind of shifted Coca-Cola personally away from focusing on the business to focusing on things that were more right in front of them. The first one being the attack of the wyverns on the town and the assassins being present, because then it's like, oh, there are this assassin thing is extremely important. We have to work this out because the city, the mayor almost gets whacked and so on and so forth. And then also her dad finding out officially like that her dad was under a Gaius and that her mom wanted her to be the killer that she didn't want to be, because that's always been her thing. I'm not that kind of rogue. She's not the kind of rogue that does assassinations. She's not the kind of rogue that pickpockets and so on. She uses those abilities for helping rather than hindering. And the Gaius and the assassins were two things that she was like, no, the business has to wait. We have to deal with these houses nonsense because it's too much.
Well, and it's not like Coca-Cola was unaware of the Goradine wet work before, but it is interesting to see that, like, witnessing it and having it impact her, like how seeing that face to face changes your priorities. Of like when it's an abstract, sure, it's not moral, but you can push it away.
Yeah, I feel like it was that whole series of events, because they went to Sharn right after the assassins and the wyvern attack, which is where they came across, like they went to her house and her mom did the Gaius thing where they found out about the Gaius, but also the houses were doing their like public so on, shenanigans where they were calling for blood and they wanted spectacle. Like it was like, blood and sand, like back in gladiatorial times. That's what it felt like. And she just didn't like it. And
I think maybe this is the first time the first time Coca-Cola witnessed it, but it's certainly not the first time it's happened since Coca-Cola's been alive in Sharn.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it's been very fun for me to see you explore those themes of like, what can I stand for when I can't ignore it?
Well, one of her things on her character sheet, when you pick your like bonds and so on and so forth, like one of hers was the houses need to change and I would like to help bring forth that change. So she had always been positive and still a part of her house until she went out of her comfort zone of Sharn, where she grew up, in being surrounded by the nepotism of being a child, not only a member of a dragon marked house with a dragon mark, but a child of somebody of, some sense of influence within the family, whether it's a minor or not.
Yeah.
Like she went from.
I mean, your mother is a woman of considerable influence. She's the in the free city of Sharn, the most advanced city on the continent. She is the leader of House Kundarak. Like that's
right.
Your mom's a big fucking deal.
Yeah, so like stepping out from underneath of that umbrella and like seeing how the houses actually affect the world and the things that they do to their opponents, or what they would probably consider a speed bump by eliminating the mayor and her grandfather, that to her, she did not like that, because as much as she had some hinky dinky feelings about the mayor, everybody in town for the most part seemed to like him, and he seemed to have been actually doing good for the city of Revan, regardless of her personal, kind of stuck up reservations about this isn't a iron gut. This is weird to me that this person is in charge here when they they're just an outsider. So it was like that whole series of events all kind of wrapped together that I think turned her entirely away from wanting to support the houses, but more wanting to either help in like usher in an era of change or completely topple them entirely because she's just sick of it.
Yeah. Speaking of the mayor, I want to talk about a little bit about this party's aversion to elected officials.
Yeah.
I do not think I have presented a single democratically elected official to any of you where you weren't immediately on edge. Or at least part of the party wasn't.
Well, Cocola's character, Jillian is also critical of monarchies and the houses. That was something she rolled out for a personality trait. But also in her backstory, she does have an extreme distrust of the houses, the organizations, because they seem to be just benefiting the people that are in leadership rather than participating and helping the community at large, which she feels like that really should be the function of households, to help the small people. And they're not. They're just enjoying the benefits of taking money and taking labor from the small people.
Yeah, and speaking of backstories, Jill was a fun character to write for because we came into this with Jill's backstory as almost a blank slate. Like, we knew who Jill was in that moment, but we didn't know anything about where Jill came from other than that her family was not traditionally dragon marked. And I had a lot of fun developing who Jill was to the people around her, both in the Undercity and in her youth through Play With You. That's something I don't get to do a lot, and I think it's a really fun tactic to have a backstory that fits your character more, is to play them first and then see, okay, where would someone like this person have come from? So I want to commend you on both, like, doing a great job handling that and like having a very well fleshed out character without that level of pre-campaign preparation. Like, I'll say as a GM, Jillian is the character who I could rely on in any situation to be like, I know what Jillian's morals are. I can give you a moral direction on where Jillian's going to swing here.
Yeah, I would
Cocola's a little wilder. Zenlin was a little... towards the end, Zenlin was more predictable for me. I'd say the first half of our season, Zenlin was a little bit of a wild card for me. And let's be honest, Reznor's entire defining trait is that he's looking for someone to follow or someone to tell him it's okay to lead. And speaking of that, how do we think Reznor's outlook on the clan that he left behind to chase his old friend has changed since session 1? Do you think Reznor feels that? Do you think he still feels he's made the right decision? Or do you think that he's a little more concerned about it?
I think at first, when he first set out and still was with the party, before he kind of got back into talking with Roran, it was the right choice. He knew he needed to do it. And I think what really changed that was after talking to her, and I think it actually came up in session, was a lot of what she was saying made him think of, you're borderline what we used to be fighting against.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of turned him to okay, this person isn't this, flawless figure that I thought she was back in the day. And I think he's still happy he left and coming and is kind of changing himself. But I think a lot of that has to just do with he's met these people he's traveling with, and instead of being where he was at stagnant, that
Yeah.
the party as a whole has helped him realize he needs growth.
So it sounds to me kind of like you're saying Resnor's maybe not happy with the reasons why he left anymore, but he's happy with the growth he's made.
Yes.
I think that's a theme that we actually see quite a bit here in this party. We had Jillian thinking back on leaving and the fact that she left, she really only left because Coca-Cola did. We have Coca-Cola leaving on her mother's orders. Zenlin, I think Zenlin might be the one who regrets the reason he left his place the least, because Zenlin did leave to grow and learn. Just the growth and learning took a different direction than you expected, it seems.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
You learned about yourself more than you learned about a cure.
Yeah, I had written things down. One of the things I said is that, like, I've seen the world. I've learned a lot about myself, my condition, the world, how it works. Like, everything shifted.
Yeah. I think as far as, like, meeting their... Well, actually, let me correct this. The only player who met the goal they stated to me in our session, like, -1, where I talked to all of you one-on-one, is actually not Duke, whose goal as a character was to find Warren. That's it. You did it, bud.
We did it.
Now, do you think Resnor's ready to retire having accomplished his goal? Or do you think he's still got a lot of things to figure out?
Oh, he's definitely still got a lot he needs to figure out. He is nowhere near the end of what he wants.
Wonderful. Then on that note, I'm going to ask you to give me, let's say, a 6-sentence summary of Resnor's next 8 months after all of the refugees, all 200 of the initial refugees have been moved into Revan.
Oh, 6 sentences. Okay.
Finding housing wherever they can. 2 families are taken in by Fetheric into the cabin, which you can see he is working on expanding every day so he can get more people out of tents and in under a roof. The mayor's house is rebuilt, and with his blessing, having decided not to return for both his and his wife's health. The steward of Revan turns it into a housing unit for refugees. But there are still about, you'd guess probably about 50 to 60 people who are, like, you've got the apartment buildings full, things are all full up. You've got about 50 to 60 people who are not willing to make the trip up north to the fort and are still in tents. It's a matter of they just can't handle that kind of, like, travel from a military fort back to the city whenever they need something.
Gotcha.
We do see that some members of the Circle of Druids that Jillian helped come by each day to pass out good berries to people who do not yet have enough food. And you see that Revan's food stores are actually increasing as some people voluntarily cut their normal meals down to a good berry a day so that more can be stored back in preparation. The people of Revan, you can tell, rise to the occasion in this moment. Many of them, though there are still a few hangers-on to the idea of the old Revan identity, so to speak. Many of the people here have not met anyone that is not a human dwarf or known before. And there's some friction at first. But as we described last episode, with Cocola's management, Jillian's speaking to the people, and Resnor's intimidating presence stopping any violent acts before they happen, things begin to settle. So what's Resnor up to?
I would say Resnor is still. I kind of had it where once we start to realize the strain of housing and food, Resnor would probably, working with Roran, and the shifters try and help with hunting, building, doing whatever he could with that.
But let's talk a little less about the day-to-day and more about what is changing for Resnor.
So definitely the new relationship with Roran, I think, kind of exploring that. He's not used to the emotional side of everything. He's getting obvious work on his rages and his feralness, trying to learn and control all that.
Yeah. And I think after maybe about the first month or two that you and Roran are both figuring out your new relationship and as you figure out your relationship with yourself, Roran begins to teach you a few of her moves, her active meditations. Resnor, would you like to let our players know what new class you'll be taking after our time skip?
I will be taking Fighter.
Yeah, we go, and I believe you're going with our 4-level or 3-level boost. You'll be going straight into Battle Master, correct?
Yes, I'll be going into Battle Master.
Gorgeous. As Roran shows you some of her maneuvers that she used so skillfully on you that day in the forest, you begin to settle, and you see the wolf at your side. Though the fur is still red, it is no longer blood, it is just fur. And every once in a while, it walks up next to you, Aurora, and pushes its head into your hands. Still, whenever you're not keeping it busy, can often be found hunting small game needlessly. But the bloodlust is there, but it is calmed, and it is more appropriately directed. As the months move on, we're at about 6 months in now. What has the new daily routine Resnor's settled into come to look like?
The new daily routine probably starts off with probably still a little bit of the normal of working out in the morning, but he's added some of the meditation into it.
Oh, and actually, important question. Did Roran move into the tower, or did you move into the fort?
Oh.
Wait. Are Resnor and Roran an item now?
Oh, did you miss that last episode?
Yeah, I did, because I'm secretly holding out for the Resnor and Zenith love story.
Actually, no, I know you
It's
didn't miss
okay,
it last
we are
episode
too.
because in our back chat you were cussing me out for ruining your ship.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so yeah. Okay, well now I'm remembering that I was cussing you out, and I'll just
That's all it
add.
takes. I'm gonna
I'll
start
add-
running the "fuck you" chip banner when I want Hooli to remember something.
I was just gonna run it too. I'm gonna just add Roran's name to Cocola's Aria list just to
Oh my
push that
God.
ship along.
Yeah.
Yeah, would you like actually, Coca-Cola? Who's on the list? Who's on the list?
It has on there Cocola's mom. She's on there. Zenlin's mother is on there, but not a like she wants to take the killing blow kind of way. It's somebody that she would like to see and participate in removing from existence. The newly elected mayor of the Undercity is on there. Arngeir.
This is why I say you guys have a problem with authority.
The cleric that fired Jillian from her clinic is on there, as well as Yurtash is also on there.
Jesus. Coca-Cola is really just killing half my named NPCs, huh?
I mean, it would be her, like, you know, ace in the hole. These are the things I accomplished. I can retire and never have to kill another person in my life, sort of things.
Also,
As she travels, it's just those people have done something or are people who just she doesn't feel like deserve.
Also wild to go for the middle manager that fired Jillian. Like perfectly in character for Coca-Cola to murder the guy whose decision it was not. Don't get me wrong.
I mean,
I feel like the mayor of the Undercity, what's his name?
Arngeir.
I feel like he's doing the best he can. I don't know. I mean, unless I rolled insight, like if I totally trust him. But
you read. I'll tell you above table. You read this man like a book. This is. You I think you got like a 27 insight on him, if I remember right. You read him like a book. This is a guy who maybe started out similarly to the rest of you, where it was like his goals, his greed based in the Undercity, but then like realized, okay, well, these people are doing so poorly that they are unexploitable. Let me help them. Very much crew conscious kind of guy and is trying to step up. You know that he does not think of himself as a good guy, but he thinks of himself as trying. In a very different way to Zenlin's mother, who is trying as a front, not because she wants to be good.
We have Jill and
I'm gonna spoil this for our viewers. My players are planning a subway system in our back chat right now.
Yeah, it would not be the same line. That would be really awkward to like rotate the line and get it to go underground and then continue. But we could definitely set a new one up down there.
Yeah, you know how
just got to put a Batcave disc. You just got to put a Batcave disc in there.
Either that or like you know how you can have like how the train tracks go one way, but you can switch off to another track where
like a trolley problem.
Like the switch off track that goes down below and then back up, where the train maybe once a day it would go above ground through Revan, and then the other time when it comes back through, it goes through the underground. Just switches tracks to go down instead of up.
All right, these are logistics we will discuss.
Listen,
doing the talk back.
Look, we were in the back chat. You brought it.
I'm happy to get in a call with you, and talk about the logistics of building a subway in this fantasy world.
I'm just saying it's a possibility.
That sounds so exciting to me. But I have a question.
Yeah, Jill has a sending zone, so she's been in contact with the mayor of the Undercity.
Yeah, you've been talking.
Sort of. Yeah. to make sure he's keeping things on track. To if he's stressed out and he's having a bad day and he just needs to vent, she's
and he's
the
offered the
one that
same to
he's talking
Jillian,
to.
who, Jillian, you're realizing that Steward Irongut really loves to make proclamations and be the public face of things, is not putting full effort into the... He's good at the administrative work he does. Let's put it that way. But a lot of that administrative work that he does is signing papers after asking you to fill them out. Like, this is a retired old man who says, I'm out of retirement because they need my name. He's really doing his best, but yeah, he's like, his best is not much right now. He's so sleepy all the time. And you
Speaking
see,
of Steward
Yes.
Irongut, is my patch gold again?
it is.
Great. Good. Just wanted to make sure. Okay, back to your regular scheduled programming. I'll be quiet again.
All right. But Zenlin, I'm going to throw a question back at you. Or Dawn, rather.
Yeah.
Did you have a view for how this campaign was going to go for your character? And if so, what changes of it surprised you most?
I don't know. I've played with a lot of different GMs with different styles. And I've played a lot of campaigns that do not make it far. Fun fact, when season 2 starts, this is my peak level I have ever made it to. So super excited for tier 4 combat. Never actually done it.
So many legendary actions.
Yeah. By excited, I mean scared. So, like, I mean, you know that, like, Zenlin had a backstory. I made sure I had, like, concepts for what I wanted him to be. But I left it relatively open. Like, in my mind, right, this was a political intrigue happening on Charn. Like, I didn't imagine, and I think it didn't, it's not that it came up fast, because it's been, right, what was it, a year and 5 days, was it?
1 year and 5 days of streaming this
so
show.
right, like, it's not that it was fast, but like when I have a character and I'm like, oh, they're from this far off place, like, that's end game stuff to me. Like, in my mind, that's like, we're gonna handle the story quest, and then maybe I can convince the party that we should go have a fun little adventure and deal with this. So like, getting over there and even touching it now, no, you guys don't understand. Our DMs are pure Zenlin Res. Like, we have been having the biggest lovers quarrel about who betrayed who most.
It is legitimately probably like 4 pages of arguing.
Anyways.
So like, you had asked about like the business mind and shifting, and I don't think it really did for Zenlin. Like, it was always just a means to an end. Like you said, he wanted to learn. So like, this was just a way to get paid and fund his research as he traveled across the country. He had zero interest. And that's why in the beginning, he really just let Jolly and Coca-Cola and everyone else just take the reins. And then I feel like when Jolly dipped off, he kind of stepped up and, like you said, became a little more predictable and controlled because he had to have a vested interest now. As far as like where I thought Zenlin was going and what would happen, like, he's going toward the goals that like were in his backstory that I had set up for him. So I don't know that I can say like this isn't where I expected him to go. Right, I made the disease, frailness, whatever, completely vague and left that open to you. As like it had been in my backstory. We couldn't explain what it was, so he was going to find out.
And I think one of the things that I relate to most in this game is that feeling of with Zenlin of being sick and not knowing why, and having everyone give you a different reason, and all of them have some evidence to say they might be right. I think Zenlin is the character that personally touched me the most in this campaign.
But so like full development, I think this is what I probably like subconsciously knew Zenlin would do. I think when I built Zenlin, I legitimately intended to find a cure and cure him. Not that right is going to mechanically make him stronger instantly or anything, but just like in my brain that was going to happen. But I think even when I was writing it, I knew that in my head I was like, but it makes a much better story if on the way he realizes that he doesn't need to fix himself and he's always been capable of those things, and it was just the douchebags telling him he couldn't.
Yeah. Oh, and I know, like, early game, you and I even talked a little on our own about what a cure looked like mechanically for Zenlin. Like, I talked about, okay, I think, if you find a cure, we'll probably bring your strength and con up to like a +1 even.
Yeah.
Because of the conditioning your body has had from being sick. And I'm not going to say that's even impossible now. Like, but I think having that acceptance of I don't need it first is very impactful.
Yeah.
Being happy with yourself as you are, especially for a character like Zenlin who, like, as a sorcerer, casts from their self. Like,
yeah.
You affect the world with your will upon it.
Sorry, I was catching up on Backchat again.
Backchat right now is Reznor mentioning that him and Don have been arguing about Zen and Rez and Kokola threatening to murder their partners.
No, can I get party consensus? Can I take a vote on this? So the crux of the argument comes that from Reznor's perspective, Zenlin said yes to a date and invited that guy up to his bed. I point out that we did nothing but cry all night. Reznor, on the other hand, has actually kissed someone.
Here's my counter argument. 1, Reznor left that night, has no idea. 2, how many women did Reznor turn down? 3.
That's true.
Reznor was the realist and Zenlin's for the streets, and that's where I'm leaving it.
I'm going to say that neither of you communicated your feelings with each other, and therefore neither of you is to blame for seeing someone else. You're both to blame for poorly communicating and taking it out on the other emotionally. And hey, this advice goes for you guys at home too. Talk openly and honestly with the people that you're interested in, because if you don't, then you both have an unrealistic expectation of your relationship. It's not healthy and it's not honest. And yes, you're both for the streets.
Next season is just a drama. It's just about Zenlin and Reznor trying to sabotage each other's relationships.
And actually, correction, you're not for the streets. Zenlin, has only dated the first person that flirted with them in this campaign.
And to be clear, when he asked me out, I essentially said, sure, you can buy me dinner, but I'm not walking you home.
Yeah.
Like,
you did walk him home, though.
I did, but
I was really waiting for Chip to make the awkward reveal that there's still a note under Zenlin's pillow from Reznor.
I'm not going to lie. I forgot. But if you'd like to read that note out now, Zenlin certainly would have found it in the intervening 8 months.
Oh, I'm pretty sure the note just said to meet him on the roof. This is what he's going to tell him with the fort.
So there's a random night where Zenlin doesn't sleep and chills on the roof all night and comes in the morning upset because no one went to meet him on the roof and he's confused as shit.
You recognize the handwriting as Reznor's?
Yeah, the E's are backwards.
That's even worse because then he's grumpy with Reznor.
The E's are backwards.
I would like to clarify, Reznor's not stupid, he's uneducated.
No. Reznor has Winnie the Pooh handwriting now, okay? That's just canon.
Oh, I'm completely okay with that. That's how I imagined it the whole time. He's got random R's capitalized, Z's are backwards.
I love that.
He writes his name like it's a password.
Iconic. What were some of the most memorable moments for each of you, like as your character? Let's start with Reznor.
Oh, most memorable moment.
If you can't think of any, then I guess it's none.
No, it's more. There's a couple.
Oh, well, feel free to list a couple then. It's most memorable moments, not just the one.
One I would say one would obviously be reuniting with Roran in the field. Another would actually probably be Pride when Zenlin gets the Wyvern Slayer title.
That was big for Reznor.
That was big for Reznor. Taking control of the rage on the battlefield. That was another really big one for him. And that might be the top three.
Gorgeous. Let's move Catty Corner to Coca-Cola.
I think some big moments for her were obviously the gayest thing with her dad, and that whole situation was big. Letting Jillian be Big Spoon for once was a big thing for her. Getting the connection to the stone, like establishing dwarven heritage on her own rather than simply because of what her last name was. And probably being able to take over the construct on the battlefield and bring it home with her was pretty awesome. It's like Reznor's got me, but no, I get this guy. So I think that's it. I mean, there's lots of stuff, but those are like the
Big ones, yeah.
I think those are defining moments of her.
No, you didn't, Reznor. And anyway, we're going to move down to Zenlin. Yeah,
for
Reznor, you forgot Beep.
I'm no longer fit to play Reznor.
I think if we're talking like moments that were significant to Zenlin, there's obviously like when he found out his mom was involved and was the Shadow Queen. Like again, that was not a thing that like I necessarily anticipated or planned or honestly even like understood up to that point. But that was big for Zenlin. There was another one I just had. Obviously, like meeting Alethri, and her giving him whether it is the full answer or not, like a decisive answer, which is something he had never gotten, was really big. And the other ones that were impactful, I think it's some of me bleeding in, probably.
Nope, it's fine.
But
it's you and your character. Like, it's your character. If it's impactful to you, it's impactful to them.
And it's probably you, which is the couple of times that like mild drow racism has just popped up and just like fully gut punched out of nowhere, like was big. And then there's the entire recent act, like from the Wyvern attack on, the event on the tower was a big defining fact in the like I can do this while sick. I felt like Gandalf fighting the Balrog in the flashbacks once he comes back, right? He's like, that's
Absolutely.
What it felt like. The battle felt like a scene from Return of the Kings with everyone just going ham and carving into the troops. Coca-Cola just jumping around and slaughtering, Reznor just charging in.
Absolutely. I think that was one of my favorite fights I've ever run, between, especially with your guys' use of elevation in the battle on a 2.5D map of an entire city. Gorgeous. And I think that was the battle where Reznor debuted his new subclass of correct?
I'm sorry, which battle?
The wyvern attack.
Yeah, I think that was the first time Reznor used Cleaver and grew
Yeah.
large.
And through your axe.
Yeah. And then, last but certainly not least, what were some of our most impactful moments for Jillian or for you as a player, Shen?
I think for Jill, I think when she realized that just, let's see, I guess working at a community level where she had a clinic and she felt like she was making a difference, like one patient at a time. But I think the big eye opener for her was realizing that the houses were scheduling a purge, that they had blocked off the exits so that people couldn't even flee to get out of the way. I think that was like the biggest eye opener for her, and realizing that they had to do something big, and at that point changing subclasses to the city cleric so that she could really reach in and feel the community, the people. And for Jill, I feel like her power is really having hope that somehow she could heal the community as a whole, the Undercity, and that somehow they'll still fit into the world in a meaningful way so that people still have dignity, that they have a job. People don't want handouts, So I feel like that for her, all of it kind of connects together. The sense of community, the sense of hope, and then ultimately giving these people a chance to do something different.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, Zenlin's the character I related to most. Jillian is the character who I want to be like. I aspire to be a Jillian in the world.
I feel like
I've said this for years. I am but a simple, shitty rogue who wishes they were good enough to be a cleric.
This character has been a lot of fun because it's also like a time in my life where me being Kanaka Maoli, Native Hawaiian, where it's like the Maui fires really hit home, since I do have family that's still homeless. My aunt that was airlifted away, she's at least back on the island now, but she's still really sick. But I feel like Native Hawaiians have really got a sense for connecting to their kuleana. I mean, because it is like a duty, it is a privilege to be connected to the land, to the water.
Yeah.
And
it's a
there's
privilege.
just it's all connected.
Yeah.
And the way that everything, community means a lot to Native Hawaiians. And even though I don't live in Hawaii anymore, I live here, I still try to find a way to connect with community.
Yeah, well, and Jillian, not Jillian, Shen, I have felt privileged every day that you have been a part of my community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Possessor. You're going to do a better job of it than any of us. We've got so much to keep track of. But yeah, I think role-playing games are all about community for me, at least. It is building a story together. And if that story is about helping others, what could be better? And I'm so happy to have gotten to tell this story with all of you. Let's continue to tell your stories a little bit. Zenlin, over the next 8 months, what do you do?
Zenlin works himself to the bone. When he can snag Reznor for sparring, he does so. Nights he spends studying with Electri, on top of whatever they have to do right during the day to get the tower running, business like that stuff. Like all of this on top of it. He's an elf, so like he already only has to meditate for 4 hours, so it's not the end of the world. But like, he works on his things. In the ending conversation to his mother, he also made a subclass swap or a class swap. He is no longer a sorcerer fighter; he's a sorcerer paladin. Also the Watchers.
Beautiful.
So, like, he's working on that. He took an ASI for Dex.
When we come back for season 2, I'd love it if you could have your oath written out for me.
Sure. It was part of the speech. I can totally give that to you probably by the end of the night.
Oh, well, actually, why don't we just run a scene quick with you and your mother?
Okay.
Probably about a month after the refugees have finished being moved, you receive a summons from your mother. Just a quick little sending, and she does not use the full 20 words. Zenlin, I need someone to be frank with. Are you free tomorrow evening?
Oh, I can respond in sendings. He's not going to use the whole thing either. He's just going to say sure.
The next evening comes, and your mother is in not her private parlor, but one of the parlors here in her palace awaiting you. And you see there is a bottle of brandy in the middle of a glass table with 2 chairs next to it. Come, sit.
I do.
How do you not just do away with the ones that are bothering you?
Well, for a long time, I simply couldn't. On top of that, you and everyone around me told me I couldn't, so it kind of took a while for me to realize I could, in fact, do that. And along the way, I guess I learned some things about the world. Like the way that no matter what and how much people dislike each other, they will band together in a time of need.
I suppose that's true. Not helpful, but true for you, it seems. All right, well, I've said my very rude and frank thing to begin with. Now you say one.
Sure. I guess.
But I don't want to be the only one being impolite. And if we can't be ourselves with family, who can we be ourselves with?
Fine. As I said the other day, I left hoping to earn your respect one day. You never believed in me. You told me I could never do the things that I vowed as a child that I would. Couldn't fight on the front lines, couldn't drive back the Delkir. But as you admitted, you were wrong. And so that's why I'm still not done preparing. But I will not return to this place until I have fulfilled that vow I made all those years ago. If I have to do it alone, I will do so. If my companions won't go with me, that's fine. But I will go to Zoriat, and I will slaughter the Dalkir in such a fashion that they will tell their children tales of the horrors they experienced for ever daring to set foot in my realm.
Take care, my son. It is not lightly done to take a vow before the Shadow Queen. Are you certain? I do not wish to press this banishment upon you. If it is
I
not
am.
what you take yourself.
I am. With the condition that if I am forced to return here early, I will do so at my own detriment and yours.
You think to bind me with your oath?
No. I think to make a promise to you that if you give up this act of yours, and I am forced to return here to protect those I've left in your care, I will make you pay before I do.
Go ahead and give me intimidation.
Sure, I wasn't expecting to roll today.
I wasn't expecting you to either, but you have an inspiration from the audience, and I don't want it to go to waste.
That's fair.
Yeah, or let me say intimidation or persuasion. Your choice. Same either way, right?
Yeah, it is the same. We'll use intimidation because that was Zenlin's key thing that he rarely gets to use anyways, because he wasn't sure of himself enough to be intimidating.
Hell yeah.
Only if I can be Steve. But it's 26 with the inspiration.
26 with the inspiration. Golden. You see your mother stand. And I think for the first time as she rises, you do not see her as your mother, the former Duchess. You see the Shadow Queen as the light saps out of the room behind her, leaving pitch black in its wake. And she reaches out, and with one of those long nails, just leaves a small bloody spiral in your cheek that fills in with black ichor before sealing shut. A mark of your promise, my son. You are bound to act for one of two purposes. The death of the Dalkir, or the death of a tyrant. I pray you need only feel the first. And you see the shadows surge around your mother and around you. When we return, Zenlin will have the feat Eldritch Adept.
Ooh. And when that happens, Zenlin is going to say, "That is fine, Shadow Queen."
Or actually, I'm going to correct that. You can choose between Eldritch Adept or Shadow Touched.
Okay, I will definitely look into it.
Yeah.
In response, Zenlin just looks at her. I was going to ask this earlier because being in her rooms, I assumed that there was no light to begin with.
Oh, no, this was a very nicely lit. Like I said, this is not her parlor. This is a parlor in the palace.
Oh, okay. But now she's made it dark with her shadows.
You don't think this is voluntary.
Okay, good.
I'll give you that for free. You think this is her basically in the mantle of when she takes on the mantle of Shadow Queen, this is going to happen, whether she wants it to or not.
Okay, good. Because that's perfect, because I want to say, don't worry, Shadow Queen. I will not come for your throne. I have no interest in such things. But you may be the Shadow Queen and borrow power from them, but I am the Shadow, and I would like to activate my armor.
Beautiful. You disappear. Run, my prince, before your oath settles in. And do not come home. Please. And you hear her voice break a little bit on the please. The first time you've ever heard that word come out of your mother's mouth, sincerely.
Good. Maybe she'll learn that it shouldn't just be an act. And before the shadows dissipate, he's gonna leave so that the like whole dramatic effect isn't ruined.
Yeah, you're gone. And you, I'm going to say running. Even here in the palace, it is still dim lighting at best, so your mother's dark vision stays up. You can see the shadows fade behind her, collapse into her, and you see her collapse into a chair and grab that bottle on the table.
But yeah, aside from sparring and training over the next 6 to 8 months, the only other thing he'd really do is probably find himself a scimitar so that he can practice with it with his new proficiency and training, so he doesn't have to use a dagger.
Yeah, no worries. You can get a scimitar over the next 8 months, no problem. I'll even say you can get a +1.
Nice. I was going to ask if I could spend money on a +1 anyways.
Nope. You've got 8 months and you're at a tier. You're about to be at tier 4. I might modify that by the time we come back for season 2 to just say you have a +2, honestly. But we'll see. Moving on from that, though. Coca-Cola. Your next 8 months. How busy do you keep? And with what do you keep busy?
I say she probably keeps extremely busy between checking in on her dad, checking in with her dad several times a day, micromanaging the arrangements in the city, still trying to work on getting the tower put together so that way we can get things flushed out. I think she keeps herself extremely busy with the always looking over the shoulder as well.
Yeah, I think Coca-Cola, over the next 8 months, you and the network that you build within Revan using the members of the Blood of Yurtosh, and the volunteers from amongst the rest of the populace. You intercept 6 Goradin agents trying to make their way into the city.
Which I had some thought that would be a thing as well, because obviously, like, her dad was taken out of the home.
Not a single one of them is captured alive.
Which I also figured was probably not gonna. But if I really needed to speak with them, I have a really cool friend that has a thing that I can do that, so.
I'm so sorry. It seems that they are... When I say they're not captured alive, I should say they're not captured whole. It seems that House Kundarak, in its dire straits, has allied itself directly with House Cannith and have been supplied with some very interesting arcane explosives.
That sounds about right.
You see your grandfather, after the first attack by one of these explosive scorpions, as they begin to be called, begins to order a fort wall to be raised around Revan.
I could dig that. I mean, we did contract the Rock Burrows to do any more work in Revan that needed to be done, so it's probably good for relations that they have something to build.
I'll say your grandfather does not declare the contract with the Rock Burrows null and void, but he does negotiate a new one, which allows for the citizens, other citizens, to be employed as builders as well.
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't think we ever said that nobody else could build. It was just they got first bid or whatever.
They had right of first refusal.
yeah, whatever it's called. I don't know shit about construction.
Well, that's just a general contracting thing. It basically means that someone has to offer the job to you first.
Yeah.
And then you can say, no, we can't take it right now if you want. But they can't offer it to someone else until they ask you.
Yeah, but I think she spends her time like actively watching her own back, knowing that she definitely pissed in her mother's Cheerios by not only getting her dad removed from the house, but involving the Moorholds.
All right.
I think
Let's actually go ahead and... Do you know what Cocola's investigation modifier is off the top of your head? Or do you have your sheet pulled up or
I have
anything?
my sheet open.
Okay, can you go ahead and just give me an investigation check then?
Yep.
And you can make it with advantage.
Okay. $23.
All right, 23. I'm going to say that over the next 8 months, you are able to spread some tendrils out across the continent through Marar holds and iron gut connections, through families of people who you have helped save, and through some of the refugees that begin to spread out, and build yourself a fledgling intelligence network. Once per session when we return, you will be able to make a DC 15 investigation check to get a basically clue from the GM about anything you choose to investigate.
Okay. So like a network of spies or such.
Basically.
But like
you have a fledgling spy network that is still contained to the continent, but spreads pretty well across Corvair. And that check will be representative of like the work they have already done and are getting to you, rather than like you learning something in that moment. It's more, oh, I just remembered this thing that my spies told me it must be relevant here. Jillian. I believe we said a large portion of your next 8 months is spent working in concert with the new mayor of the Undercity, working hand in hand to provide for both your people here in Revan and your people in the Undercity, with trade being established. I think you see that one of the things they request, like one of the first requests that come through, is for any able-bodied construction workers. And you see that some of the younger rock boroughs volunteer immediately.
Excellent. Yeah, would during this time, Jill would probably contact trusted friends from outside of Revan, maybe former
Do you think you can
housemates or
maybe
people that were with House Durasco but had left for similar reasons, or other contacts in
I'll
other
say,
parts of the Corvair.
Go ahead and give me a persuasion check. Before you roll it, I want to ask, is one of the people you're reaching out to your old mentor who you saw on the battlefield?
Yeah, I think she would reach out to. I'm trying to find his name.
Go ahead and give me your persuasion at advantage.
Okay. All right. Persuasion with advantage. Okay, I don't see it rolling. Let me try it. Where's my dice? Oh, wow. 9 plus 6, 15 is the highest with advantage.
15 is the highest. I think trying to be professional and trying to avoid, and maybe even subconsciously trying to avoid immediate disappointment, Jillian sends a letter. A week passes by, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months. And then one day, you stop in at the post office and you see an envelope marked recipient deceased, return to sender. You reach out to some other old colleagues and some other friends who, may not work directly with you ever again, but would still speak to you. And you find out that Sarah passed about 3 weeks after the Battle of the Undercity. Heart attack.
I think Jill would be pretty messed up about that, because this was somebody that was a mentor.
And this is the person who taught you, like, your father worships the sovereign host, and so does your mother, but this is the person who, like, taught you your liturgy, who helped you shape your first healing spell through magic other than your mark.
She would probably be spending a lot of time in prayers. Just trying to,
Go ahead and give me a religion check as well. I think you make these with advantage too.
Wow. My highest is a 6, and that is, come on, religion, 12.
I think with how busy Jillian has been lately, managing the city, making sure the clinic in the Undercity is being run in, like, appropriately and fairly. I think it's been a while since Jillian's been to a temple and prayed, or even really just set aside time in the day to focus on prayer for any reason other than gaining her spells. And honestly, I don't think Jillian has to spend the full hour in prayer to gain her spells anymore. Spending the time walking amongst her people is a form of prayer. You get this letter, and you go to the temple here in Revan. You see symbols of the silver flame, symbols of the sovereign host, symbols of the elven ancestors, all here in one place. You see the people gathered in the pews, all praying to their different gods. And thinking back to those prayers you were taught so long ago about the peace of the host that is each and every one of us. You say them and they just don't ring true in the same way. And you don't feel that spark of divinity deep in your heart the same way you did before. You still feel the energy flowing through you, but it's like it's flowing into you from the people around and out back to them, rather than coming from your core. how does Jillian feel as the spark of godhood that has rested in her chest for 20 some years goes out? How does she deal with that as it does not relight over the next 2 months?
I think initially she would try to connect with the sovereign host, but I think ultimately she would realize that the sense of community that she feels with the people around her in Revan or when she's in the Undercity, that seems to meet those spiritual needs that she felt before, or that connection that she felt with the sovereign host is gone, but she feels at peace because she feels something has replaced that with just the people around her, and that having hope for a better tomorrow, because we're all in the community putting in the hard work to make it work, that's where she finds her faith in her fellow man.
And as Jillian settles in to this new feeling, it's not a worse feeling, it's just different. You're no longer special, you are a piece of a whole. Go ahead and give me one more religion check. Or insight, I'll say. Both with advantage for either.
Okay. Make sure it's laying flat. Both of them are 11, so that would be 17.
17. And
For
did you
religion.
go with religion or insight? Religion?
Religion, yeah.
You look around one day while you're just... I think you're honestly just... You've taken a day away from the office to work with the people. Nobody's really sick or injured as you have your clinic here in Revan up and running, caring for people immediately. And you've just started helping out in the storehouse some days just to get to work with people directly, side by side. And as you all move as a team, taking these crates, packing them full, putting them up, marking them off, there's a little golden glow that you see right behind the sternum of each person you work with. And you look down and see it in yourself. Jillian can now cast the spell Detect Evil and Good at will. And you hear, for the first time in some months, just a little whisper. It sounds almost like a whisper on the wind, but from within yourself. You're still with us, Jill. We love you. And you see everybody else in this room kind of jerk their head like they're looking behind their shoulder for someone who just whispered in their ear. And you think everyone else in this room just heard, "We love you," from something. And that is where we are going to end this talkback episode of Gilded Destinies. Thank you so much for joining us for season 1. I cannot tell you what a brilliant fever dream I've been having almost every week for the past year. Could not ask for a better group of players for this campaign. Could not ask for people who were more invested in the development of this world. Just beautiful. So with me, one last time for season 1, I have Coca-Cola, played by Hooli, Jillian, played by Shen, Zenlin, played by Don, and Reznor, played by Not Duke. And of course, everyone else, played by me. We will catch you for season 2 of Gilded Destinies. Bye-bye.